In this video, I'm going to show you how to match any color with acrylic or oil paints.
It's going to just free you up so that you really feel like you can mix any color. First, we'll really take a close look at value and everything to do with value. Then we'll dive into hue, really understanding exactly what hue is and how to use it. And then saturation, which is such an important one. And then we'll take a look at temperature, which I think is one of the ones that can be the most profound.
But before we begin, I need you all to smash that like and subscribe button.
So the first component to color is value. And a lot of artists really think that this idea of value, which basically means the lightness or darkness of a color, is actually the most important one. There's this idea that if as long as you hit the value or the tone like accurately, say if you're painting a person, then you could put almost any color into it. Like there's cool notes in the flesh tones and warm notes in the flesh tones, but as long as you're getting the value right, it'll like all set into place. And so value is really thought of on a scale with 9 being black and 1 being white, and all the sort of range in between that. So everything has like a value. Each of the colors have their own inherent value. You know, yellow is a really like light value, and like, you know, blue is a dark value, just inherent to the color itself. And then also like when you're analyzing something, even when it's in color, the first thing that you'll want to do is kind of take note of what is the value. And so I'm going to shift the light to create more of a light side and a shadow side to this grapefruit. And so what I like to do when I'm teaching a class, have the students kind of assess what the overall light side of the object is and what the overall shadow side in terms of value is. So not looking at the lightest, you know, specular highlight on the grapefruit, but just the kind of overall general, sort of the overall tone. Just kind of think to yourself for a moment, where would you place that on the value scale, with 1 being white and 9 being black? Just give you a minute. So did you think sort of maybe somewhere around probably like a 3 or a 4 kind of thing? And there is a tendency to kind of assess this light side as lighter than it really is. And, you know, when I'm putting in like the overall light side, it's often good to, you know, maybe go slightly darker than I might think so that I have room for that specular highlight later. And then looking at the shadow, I'm just adjusting the light a little bit. Where would you place the value of the shadow on the grapefruit? And so would you say it's pretty dark, maybe somewhere around, you know, one of these two, 7 or 8. So it's definitely like quite a bit darker than our light side. And so with that in mind, as you move, you know, into color and you're mixing the hue and the saturation, which are the components that we'll look at next, you'll always want to also be kind of looking to make sure that you get the light side and the shadow side of your object set into the right value. Excellent. So this is going to help you so much. Again, this is really the most important aspect of color. So even if you like stop the video right here and this is all you get out of the course, you'll really have gained a lot. It's going to help you so much in your color mixing. And so next, let's take a look at hue. So the next component to color mixing is hue. And that just basically means the color of the color in its most purest form. Like think of a prism. It's like we see like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. And so that's the hue. And like if we look at our color wheel here, we can see that the hue is basically the colors of the outer ring here. Again, just the purest form of the color, not getting desaturated with whites or blacks. Instead, it just stays whatever the natural tone of the, you know, the hue is, and just in its full vibrancy. So for example, sometimes people get confused about a color like pink. You know, red is the hue. Pink is the kind of form of the color once it's been lightened and desaturated with white. And so when we're analyzing an object for a painting, trying to figure out what color it would be, like if we look at my skin tone here, for example, sort of think to yourself, what hue do you think is like the overall light side of the flesh tone? And then what hue do you think is the overall shadow side? I'll pose that question to you and sort of think of a hue that you think it might be. Did you think orange? I would say that is, and of course it's like lighter in tone or value and desaturated, but in terms of the hue, I would say it is like closest to orange. And even the shadow side actually right now is actually quite warm. So I would say right now the overall sort of hue of the shadow side is also kind of a darker desaturated orange. And sometimes it can be like sort of subtle and hard to tell for sure what the hue is. But if you kind of bounce your eye around different areas, you can sometimes get a clearer sense. Like the hue of this kind of grayish note down here is probably kind of like a blue. And like, here is definitely more of an orange. And, compared to, this compared to that, you can tell that this is like warmer and this is like cooler.
So as you're analyzing a color for hue, remember to think back to this more simplified color wheel, thinking of the colors in their purest form and remembering that they can show up in a lighter or desaturated kind of way. But remembering that the hue is essentially these purest forms, the most intense forms of the color.
So it's going to help you so much to be able to kind of isolate the three components and identify them one by one, the value, the hue, and next we'll take a look at saturation. The third principle in analyzing color and assessing it while you're mixing up a color is saturation. So saturation basically is the intensity, vibrancy of the color or the sort of progressive lack of intensity of a color. So we would say that this is a really saturated grid and these are more desaturated. So let's look at 5 ways to desaturate a color. So I've kind of arranged these oranges as cadmium orange, and we've got black here first. So you can see if we just mix just a teeny bit of black in to our cadmium orange, letting it become progressively more black mixed in, it gets more and more desaturated the more black that I mix into the cadmium orange. So black desaturates a color and white does as well. So again, if we mix, some white into our cadmium orange, the more white we mix in, the more desaturated the note will become. It's changing the value as well. The black darkens it and the white lightens it. But they do both, desaturate the color. And then of course, gray does too. Black and white is gray. So the thing about gray is that it won't necessarily change the value. It'll desaturate the color without necessarily changing the value if it's mixed to a value similar to the orange. And then the next, and I think the fanciest really, is by mixing the complement of the color into the other colors.
So this is kind of a simplified color wheel here, and you can see that like blue and orange are opposite each other. That's called complementary colors. It's like the blue is most different from the orange, and like violet and yellow are opposite each other, and red and green are opposite each other. So if you mix the complement of a color into the color, it'll create a desaturated version of the color, and really one that's very interesting and rich. It's kind of got a slightly more rich, sort of interesting quality to it by mixing complementary colors together.
And so I've got some ultramarine blue here, and I'll just mix a little bit of that into my cadmium orange. And it just makes a really nice, rich, kind of complex, but definitely, desaturated, progressively more desaturated the more blue I mix in. And that's actually the exact reasoning. That's how I created this shadow note on my palette. And then the last way, and this sort of mostly applies to orange, is by mixing brown into the orange, just because brown is already a desaturated form of orange. So by mixing some brown in, you'll, be increasingly making it less saturated the more brown you mix in. And you'll find that the blue will have a stronger desaturating power than the brown. So you might use like less blue when you're mixing it into the orange, and you might use a little bit more brown to create the same sort of desaturating power. So that basically shows you saturation. And so with that understanding now of hue, value, and saturation, you can really assess any color that you see anywhere in the world and, mix that color just by asking yourself, what's the hue, what's the value, and what's the saturation? And so next we'll look at temperature, which is kind of a descriptive word that can help you get even more nuanced variances to your color. Training your eye to assess hue, value, and saturation sort of one by one as you mix up a color is just going to help you immensely and just kind of free you up to mix any color you ever want. So the fourth component to color is temperature. So while I really use hue, value, and saturation to identify the exact nature of a color in terms of matching it when I'm mixing it in paint, the word temperature is another term that I use a lot. We can think of like warm colors as like fire colors. So yellow is considered to be like the warmest of all the colors. And then orange is obviously warm, and red and yellow ochre is warm, and burnt sienna is warm. And then we get into the cool colors. So just think ice, green and the blue, all of the blues, are like cooler colors. And then when you get into the nuances, it's like there's a warmer and a cooler version, of different colors. And so, this red here, for example, the naphthol red, which, it looks the same as like cadmium red, it's warmer than the alizarin permanent because the alizarin permanent has a slightly more purpley kind of like feel to the kind of red that it is. And this cadmium or naphthol red is more like hot, more yellowy red. It's like definitely like a hotter version. And then the next way of thinking about temperature, and the way that I probably use it the very most, is more in terms of the relationships. So like if I was painting a lemon, for example, you'll find that some parts of the lemon will have like an edge towards just a slightly cooler note, where there's a little bit of a greenish yellow sort of coming in. And some parts of the yellow might have a little bit more of a warmish kind of flavor to it. Even just subtle sort of shifts within the color. And so, although overall, all of these colors could be said to be warm, they're all kind of yellowy in color. Some parts of it are a little bit cooler relative to this yellow note, and some parts are a little bit warmer, than the cool note. And so that's how I use the term a lot, especially when I'm like, painting an area and sort of analyzing the nuances within it. The thing to sort of do is kind of flip your eye back and forth an area. So like, let's actually take a look at a lemon right here. And if you kind of flip your eye, like at first it looks pretty neutral, here and here, like obviously all quite warm and yellow, but if you start to flip your eye back and forth between this little shadowy note here to this sort of shadowy note here, can you see how I would say that this is cooler and this is warmer? It's like this has a slightly more reddish glow to it, and this has a slightly more greenish glow to it. And so that's how you can kind of judge color as you're going, kind of flipping your eye back and forth, between certain areas to sort of decide whether it's cooler or warmer and make adjustments based on that.
So that shows you everything you need to know about color mixing. Remember to smash that like and subscribe button, and you can download a free color mixing PDF by clicking the link in my description and sign up for one of my classes. I'd love to paint with you soon.